Sets and Reps is a podcast about wellness and growth insights from coaches and creatives who practice discipline and consistency towards goals. You can find the show on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Audible, and various other places where podcasts can be heard. Brandon Cadorette and his wife Jen created the Wellfound Physical Therapy and Fitness Clinic in Burlington, Vermont. Brandon was my mentor when I first became a personal trainer and I was working in the health club space I currently do. And when he took the entrepreneurial leap to start his own business, I secretly admired him for it. And I'm glad to have him on the podcast a few years later to talk about his experience, starting off what it felt like, talk about some of his training methods, and what some of the inner workings of client and trainer relationships look like, modifying the intensity of your workout, being assertive versus sounding like a know-it-all, and more. Brandon knows that you can't get results unless you put in the reps. Here's how he puts in the reps.
We're at the pivoting point between do we just want to be to a partnership running a business and we're both booked and we both have all the clients and patients that we want a week, or do we want to work harder, hire people, expand? We're choosing avenues. Now we're projecting something different, which is not projecting we can go this far until we collapse, but it's we're this far. Do we want to go up and work hard, or do we just is this where we wanted to plateau and cruise through? So we're at cruising altitude.
Your business has been open for a while now. What are some of your thoughts when it comes to how you feel now compared to when you first started the business? How does it feel to work for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, jumping ship is scary. So you basically you save some money, and then for the first, half a year, you just watch it kind of go down, and then you've done all these calculations and all this forecasting, and you know that none of it's true and none of it's right. And you just have to, I don't know, just tie it all together. You're learning new things, applying new things. And then also you have to remember to be good at your job too, when you finally start picking up clients again, or finally start finding patients for Jen. So we went through the shaky phase, and just as we were stabilizing was, right around March of 2020. With the
Boom!
And we joked around. We used to joke around about our finances, and we'd say, Jen would be oh no, I just don't know if we're making enough money right now, if things are looking good. And I'd be all right, listen here, if we just both drop dead, the business could stay open with us dead for 4 months, and now it's 5 months, and now it's 6 months. And then lo and behold, we had this grinding halt. And it was literally, I looked at Jen, I was we got 5 months to be closed before the doors close. And that was our circumstance. So now we're just now getting our feet totally back underneath us again. And yeah, it feels good. We're at the pivoting point between do we just want to be to a partnership running a business and we're both booked and we both have all the clients and patients that we want a week and things are good, or do we want to work harder, hire people, expand? We're choosing avenues of you kind of just, now we're projecting something different, which is not projecting we can go this far until we collapse, but it's we're this far. Do we want to go up and work hard, or do we just is this where we wanted to plateau and cruise through? So we're at cruising altitude, which is the end goal when you start.
You guys are a power couple, a power team here. It's a PT clinic, but also a fitness studio.
Yeah.
So talk to me a bit about the ratio of patients that are going through rehab and clients who are interested in staying active, staying healthy, and exercising. And what's the differentiation there?
Yeah. So we had initially thought that the format of the business was you start physical therapy. When you finish, you transition into personal training. And then the goal was to go from a one-on-one personal training to helping people set up home gyms and doing online coaching. So it was 3-step process for every person, but it hasn't really played out exactly like that. We Jen and I both were acquiring people at the same time. So we had people that didn't come in for rehab and just wanted fitness, and we had people that came in for physical therapy and just like weren't good fits for me as a trainer. Like I don't do well with like type A athletes that are like, I want to break my body to win a race. Like that's not my type of training client. I do better with a client that's like, I have, you know, like these 5 recreational activities I want to keep doing, and I want to be healthy and I want to be fit. And on top of that, I maybe want to lose weight or I maybe want to gain muscle. So we kind of built concurrently instead of like segmentally, like we thought we would. And yeah, it's kind of transitioned to, I would say like, it's lower than we thought. It's like 1 in every maybe 10 clients that was a PT patient of Jen's actually becomes a client of mine. And part of that's like scheduling, like conflicts with schedules. Like I can only have, you know, 2 or 3 clients that do my 5:00 PM slot. So when you get that 3rd patient that might be a good client for that fit, and they're like 5:00 or bust, like a lot of people, it just doesn't exactly line up that way. Right. And then the other thing is, as I build clients, I have really high retention with clients. So like, I would say 60 to 70% of my clients become like lifetime clients. So my schedule, it got tanked during March, but I held like 50% of my people through that. And it only takes me like 3-4 months to be back to like, I can work out with you if you can do 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or 7 a.m. and these 2 days, and there's no other place to fit you in. So really it's become more a game of like keep Jen consistently booked because she has turnover with patients. So our marketing efforts were focused on Jen needs like a dozen new patients every single month.
Yeah.
And my marketing was more like, it was just retention and building value for my clients and not charging them more so they want to stay. And that's kind of where we're at now, is we're at this steady thing where we almost don't do marketing because word of mouth is getting Jen 10 clients to 12 clients a month now. And then I pick up 1 or 2 here and there, and I drop, you know, 1 here and there because they move away or something like that. But yeah, it's just not what we expected at all, but it's all panned out.
So she's a doctorate of physical therapy and a doctor of physical therapy. So you're saying she gets patients through word of mouth. So like if one of, you know, your clients or one of her patients gets has a friend that is going through something, they still need to get referred by their doc to come in?
Necessarily.
Not necessarily.
We have direct access with most insurances in Vermont. So you can just walk in the door to a PT clinic. The only exception to that is, I believe, Medicaid. I think even Medicare can walk in the door. And Jen, as a doctor of physical therapy, you can do a clinical diagnosis, send the notes back to your physician, and a lot of times she can start treatment without any referral or prior authorization. So we actually, because UVM is such a big hospital and they have so many physical therapists, we thought how the game worked was you connect with the hospital and the other small clinics, like the physicians around you, and those people referred you people over when, you know, Carl comes in with a twisted ankle. But how it's more so worked is that we're building like networks of people that are like, this group plays this sport that we played recreational, or we treated like one guy who played like tennis there and he referred 5 people. Or we have like a massage therapist that we really love that we send some people. And now when she gets complicated cases that need to go to PT, she sends them to us. So that's more so been the network for physical therapy, because the physicians are pretty much, it's not like forcibly like they have to refer in, but the systems are all set up. So if you're in a hospital and there's a physical therapist here, you walk by the reception desk to them and you just book your appointment. Mm-hmm. So most of our people we find kind of, you know, ad hoc, totally separate from health systems. Just different than we thought.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's cool. That's crazy. Yeah. So is there a point where you felt like more of that word of mouth stuff was starting to happen, or was it just kind of from the beginning, people just loved you guys right away?
With like seminars. So like hosting things within our facility where people could come in and it was like an hour-long thing.
Like open house type of deal?
Well, like Jen did one on like preventing low back pain for people in the garden. And that's how we ended up getting in with like a gardening community. Like Jen gardens like furiously. She has had a community garden for like 5 years. So that was a way for her to meet a bunch of people that they shared a liked interest, and they all like squat and kneel and crawl around for like 2 months out of the year and then rest through the remaining 10 months.
Hibernate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's everyone in Vermont, though. It's like it's the first big shovel of the snowstorm season. You get back pain, injuries, and there's it's sort of cyclic. But yeah, so we started as seminars, and like we did like a free PT day, which was like you come in and you get a half-hour like free appointment with Jen, and then if you want to do PT, she can tell you if she can help you, and then some people stayed on. So we did like these like guerrilla marketing things that were a lot of work. And we paid a lot for Facebook ads to get people booked in the seats. I had to figure out how to like build the website to make a landing page and acquire a lead. And then during COVID, we transitioned that to virtual, which is like a whole nother game. But now we're at the point where we haven't done one of those in months, just because we do that if Jen gets below like, you know, if she was below 60% capacity, we'd run one, but she just hasn't gotten there yet.
Got you. So you guys are in general staying very, very busy at this time.
Yeah, like bordering on like every couple of weeks, we're like, are we gonna get? Okay, we didn't get too busy. Like,
so going back to like patients from rehab going into training, you mentioned that the number was, you know, not very high, like 1 in 10 of physical therapy patients come over to you. Are there any factors that contribute to why they don't come and do training other than just schedules don't line up? Like,
well,
what thoughts do you have for that?
Well, I think there's three big things. One's time, either not having the time or not, you know, having the appropriate time. And then it's financing, because personal training off insurance out of pocket is a lot different than physical therapy paid with your health insurance or paid with your flex savings or paid with your health savings account, and not covered at 90% co-insurance and things like that. And then I think the last of those three is just like the motivation and the type of person. And that's actually, so when I started grad school to become a physical therapist. So I was in a 7-year track in college. And after year 3, I bailed on the last 3 years to become a physical therapist, finished the personal training route as exercise science, and then became a personal trainer. And part of why I flipped that switch was because I wanted to work with the types of people that are like proactive and care about prevention and are willing to like work hard up front and delay gratification to get long-term results. Like, I think that's just like a type of person, the type of person that's willing to put the effort in up front and not just be like reactive and managing like a crisis. So I would say a percentage of physical therapy patients are people that are like that type of person managing a crisis. And that's why they're there and taking care of themselves finally, is because something like finally like the last straw broke and they are injured now and they can't do the things that they wanted to do. So not all of those people come out of there and go straight into now I care about myself and want a personal trainer. And also some of the people come through that care about themselves, but they've already, like, we have a health club right next to us. We have a CrossFit gym across the street from us. Like some of those people are just already like meeting that need. Okay. So there's either they're meeting that need elsewhere, because what I do is niche, like it's private personal training in a very private setting. It's just one-on-one coaching and one-on-two coaching, and it's all live in person, 1 hour long appointments. So that's very niche. So we never really expected everybody to be into it. So yeah, I'd say those three things: not the type of person, already doing it, can't pay the money for personal training, or don't have the time. And
are you still doing online training at this time?
I do virtual.
Like virtual, yeah.
So it's live, in person, and that's a nature of like my coaching style. Is I do a really high percentage of the exercises I choose are considered like low fidelity movements. So meaning like a high fidelity movement is like a body weight, like say you're doing a wall ball squat. Like there's not a lot of ways to mess up a wall ball squat and put yourself at a risk of injury. But if you're doing like a single leg deadlift with like a row on the off arm, if I write that down on a piece of paper, you're good luck if you can even like, find that instruction without me giving it to you directly.
Yeah.
And then secondly, even if you have good instruction, there's stuff that can go wrong because you're like locking out your knee, or you're rounding at your mid back, you're rounding at your upper back. You're pulling too far. You're not pulling far enough. You're pulling with momentum. So my style of coaching just wasn't really conducive to the online format that I started in, which was using apps like Trainerize, and I tried PT Distinction. And I would just have to build a lot of supporting material to coach people to do the exercises that I typically would select.
Like, this is how you do it. But
it works better for me to see you do it. And then out of the 10 things that go wrong, the one that does, I can identify it and fix it. As opposed to you needing to watch 10 videos to figure out if you're doing one of those 10 things and then coach yourself. Like it becomes a waste of people's time, sort of, my time included, building out the stuff and then not being in a format. Like basically the user experience ended up really bad because the part of the secret sauce was like me catching you doing the one wrong thing and fixing it. So I haven't really found a format to do that other than dumbing down the workouts. And I'm not a big fan of doing that either.
It's hard to do online training to have success with it. And, I found that's what we had to do with the pandemic and everything when it first kind of happened. But I feel like a lot of people that did online training, kind of fell off. Like, I don't know. It just feels like it's hard to stay consistent with, compared to in person. So
yeah, you don't have that. Like you call them, like we call our clients because it's like a partnership. It's a two-way arrangement. And when the arrangement on my end means I need to like click through like numerical values and then send you like one text message and that's our relationship, like that's not what, in my mind, good personal trainers don't coach that way. You can help people, like I would call most online training online program design, not online personal training. Like it's not personal and it's not training, it's giving you a workout. Like you're missing pieces of those are the things that I like about coaching. Is the reason I coach, and you're removing them in order to apply that format. And that's why I think the user experience suffers, because it's just not as good of a product. Like you don't solve as many of people's problems all at once. You don't get to talk to them about their whole life and, also coach them on lifestyle and happiness and, cheer them up and just be like jovial if they're in a bad mood. Like those things can't happen if you're logging into an app and staring at your phone for another hour and a half a day.
Yeah.
Make people happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to, you talked about there being a type of client that you feel like you don't work the best with, or it's not your fit. And I think,
I'm not, the Spartan clients are not for me. So like I will break my body 4 times to win this race and then grit my teeth and continue to do that until I'm 35 and broken, like entirely broken.
Send them over to Jen too.
Exactly.
They'll need PT.
If those are my only clients, Jen would need help. But
10Ks only, no Spartan races.
Yeah, there's a type of that type A mentality that I think I can rein in well, but there's some of those people that are just so like unifocused and so so unwilling to care about their health and the longevity of things. Like they're just like the cost of gold people. You have statistics about like pro athletes and how many of them would like take a drug if they knew I would win an Olympic gold medal this year, but I'll die in like 5 years or 10 years. Have you heard that study?
No, what's that about?
I don't remember the actual like statistic numbers, but like an alarming amount of like pro athletes that like win a gold medal say that they would take a drug that would kill them in like 10 or fewer years if they would win a gold medal this year. Like they're willing to die to win a gold medal just because like that's their mentality. And that type of mentality is such a clash with my style of like, let's do it properly first and let's slow down a little bit. Like,
let's inhale and exhale.
Exactly.
And not do it that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is my biggest conflict with any client is the do it fast, do it wrong, win, and then and then complain later when you're totally busted.
So like in the past, like whether it's currently with where you're at or in the past, have you had to turn clients away before? Like,
Yeah, I call it breaking up with people. It just becomes like a conflict, and it just becomes like neither of us budging on the things that need to be budged on. So I wouldn't say like, I've never been like flat out, you're fired, like we're not working together anymore. But I have told people like, maybe what you're looking for is like better suited to like having been in the health club setting. Like I've recommended people that are like, I just want to work out and work out hard, but I've got like 6 injuries. And I've told people like, maybe you're better off because you have injuries and you want to train through them, not being in my gym with barbells and dumbbells, but going in and just like doing a Nautilus circuit and then getting on a low impact machine like a recumbent bike and doing something like that where you can crank your heart rate up in a low impact setting and we don't have to keep like dodging all your injuries. Like I'll have people that like have 1 or maybe 2 injuries, but when someone's got like 4 injuries and they're self-inflicted because they're not willing to rein it in and they're not willing to like give up their training mentality, that kind of stuff happens. And then I've had the other side of the coin, which is like, if you're just a no-shower, then my no-show policy gets more and more strict. And if you continue to try to train less times per week, my pricing model actually makes it more expensive to train less. And you start on a monthly cycle where you're encouraged to use your training sessions or you pay for them and lose them and things like that. So I have developed, like I get to develop strategies to incentivize the type of people that I like to work with and decentivize the type of people that are like trying to cheat the system and not work hard. So I wouldn't say I fire people, but I have the unique ability to like tweak my model to find the right people and really cater to my type of client and really like kind of deter the type of people that won't be a good fit. Like if you come in and you say, my work is first, I'm gonna miss appointments. I say, that's great. You're gonna pay for all of them though, if that's the case. Like that, some people just turn around and walk out. And I'm like, good, because we were gonna have a hard time. You were gonna work for me and I was gonna get $0 for that hour. That's not a win-win.
Thanks for listening to Sets and Reps. Here's a word from last week's guest in case you missed it.
Too many people flounder in life because they let their feelings inspire their thoughts. And I think for those people who are the most successful, they let their thoughts inspire their feelings. What you think is what you feel rather than what you feel is what you think. And as I'm walking, I'm going, what am I doing out here? This is stupid. Why did I want to walk across the country? Why did I want to do this? Because there's no trees for me to go under. There's no shelter. To get out of this canyon, I've got at least another 1.5 mile walk, and I am literally moving at a snail's pace because imagine your foot, you're trying to lift it up and pull it up, and then you step forward. And then all of a sudden there was this voice. I don't know. I just had this thought. It said, say thank you. I go, what the hell? Say thank you, man. This is like one of the crappiest places I've ever been. Say thank you. So I said, thank you. And then my brain was able to say, thank you for being here today. Thank you for having this adventure. Thank you that I've never done something like this. Thank you for the chance to conquer this challenge because you know you will. And so immediately what started to happen was these thoughts started changing because I said thank you.
Well, you are working for yourself now. So that's cool that you kind of built those things into how you're pricing your product because it is like that's important too. You need to know your value and you need to know that your time is valuable and other people's, their time is valuable too, but they're coming to you for your services. So there needs to be priorities there. Shape up, ship out. Yeah.
And being clear about that up front just prevents so much like misery that you end up in. Like you've had it, like I've had days at Hampshire Hills where like you have a bunch of no-shows last minute and the no-show cancellation policy is sort of like you get to choose whether or not you bill somebody or not. And it's sort of dependent on your relationship and you're always worried people are going to get mad. So it's much easier to have that like built in on the front end to avoid that situation, because really your client doesn't have a good time and you don't have a good time. And the result is you're not a good fit. Like either they're not a good fit for the type of like fitness you're offering, or they just don't like value you and that makes you feel like crap. Like I have some people that will miss a lot of appointments, but they'll pay me monthly and they still pay me as much as they do for the hour they miss the appointment as they do for the hour they come. So really like those people pay me like 25 to 50% more to see me. And they show me that they value me not by showing up, but by willing to commit to coming and paying extra and things like that. The downside is when people want to train less and pay less and they try to nickel and dime you out. Because whether they intend it or not, how it makes you feel is unvalued. Like,
yeah.
You just feel like you're not worth the money to them and they don't care about what you offer. And that's not a two-way relationship. That's not a client relationship. Like that's a service relationship. That person should go online and buy a program because they don't want to coach a program.
Are there other things from the health club space that help you thrive in your day to day, whether it's things that you avoid from the environment that you used to be in, or things that you have taken, just from your experiences there and just kind of run with in your current business?
Well, the beauty of the health club is like the variety of clientele that you see. So like, I think if you like right now we're talking about like, who's my type of client. That's something that you learn after 5 years of like thinking, like, I remember specifically being like, I'm going to get this extra certification because I want to work with like college athletes going off to play a sport. And I thought that was my type of person, but like 50% of those people were my type of people. So you get a chance to like dial in and hone in who's a good fit for you. And then over time, you can kind of like slant your continuing ed. Like I actually didn't think I was going to want to work with people that had like chronic injuries or a current injury that they're building around. Mm-hmm. But working with like dozens of those types of people at Hampshire Hills actually made me realize like, oh man, this is actually like the kind of problem solving that I'm into. Like I actually really enjoy this type of person. And if I had just gone straight into like working at like a CrossFit gym, I would have never had the opportunity to like work privately and be like, you have like serious back injury and a neck and shoulder injury. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can't do. Here's what the textbook says you can do, but you can't do. Here's what the textbook says you can't do, but you can do. Because you learn those things too as you go. Is that the 5 700-page textbooks still weren't enough information to coach everybody yet.
I guess not.
So I would say the variety of people. And also when I built my gym, I knew what equipment I wanted because I had a health club that had it all. Yeah.
And you could probably choose the age of your equipment that you want to buy and make sure it's not too outdated too.
0 years old. Yeah.
0 years old.
But you also learned that those hammer strength plate loaded machines will live to be 100 years old if you want them to.
Some of those are really,
they don't even
really like those. Let's talk about injuries in the fitness space that lead to someone needing physical therapy, whether it's just because. So when I first started at my program at school, my professors are all lovely people, and they are all physical therapists. And I'm a trainer, so I showed up, and they're just like, some of them, one in particular was just talking about how she has a sort of a distaste, best way to put it, for trainers because of the volume that personally this individual has had of patients coming to them with injuries because of training, because of something that their trainer did with them that wasn't smart or, wasn't well thought out. So how do you feel like this is best avoided with trainers specifically? How can we avoid injuring our clients so that they don't need physical therapy?
I think if all trainers would just stay off social media stop trying to trendy new exercise they've never done before every single workout with somebody, But it's trial and error, because that's the majority of injuries that I've seen or experienced in the weight room. There's two types of injuries that I see sometimes. Luckily not in the last couple of years. But one is doing something like a little too plyometric, or a little too like explosive and like landing and taking off, like jumping laterally with somebody who's just not ready. Like they're a weight loss client and you want to ramp up like the cardio and conditioning portion of the workout. So you think like the textbook says, like mix compound lifts together, like we're going to do like a burpee into a lateral lunge or something like that, and that'll crank their heart rate up. And then we're going to do some like jumping left to right. And those like movements too soon in the progression, like before that person has stability and is confident on their feet, or before that, like, whether or not they're coordinated enough to do those things. Those are the types of injuries I saw, especially like when I was a very, very new trainer. And then the other kind is like building the type of relationship where you can assert to your client that you're correct when you say like that was their max weight and they don't need to go up. Because the injuries that I've seen, one in particular, was somebody just doing like one more rep at their max than I prescribed. And I told them like, we're not going to push to 1 rep max. And he really wanted to, and we did. And then he did it. And then he's like, I can get one more. And he did it. And his back, like he injured his back, which is like, he's the only person that I've ever had injure their back. And that's how it happened. So how I avoid that now is, one, I do 1 rep max training personally. I don't prescribe 1 rep max training to almost anybody. Like we will do, if they're a really heavy lifter with me, they'll do like a 3 rep max or a 5 rep max. We don't peak into doubles and singles, because if you're training with me, you're probably not going to win a powerlifting meet, because you would be over somewhere else doing steroids right now, not hanging out with a health related personal trainer. So I would
Crisis
say
management.
Avoiding like crazy high intensity. It's just intensity in both ways. One's intensity through loading and one's intensity through like speed. So avoiding those extremes in your training. You can still do stuff that builds like an enormous, like it really gets people's heart rates up. You can still do things that are really challenging physiologically and recruit bigger motor units and do like the physiological adaptations of strength training without doing a max effort Monday, Tuesday, because Westside Barbell does that, like with a client. So just avoiding the extremes and knowing where the extremes are. Like the majority of people that I train are cycling between like 60 to 65% intensity, 70 to 75% intensity, and then like 1 week at 80 to maybe 90% intensity. Most are 80 to 85, and then we cycle way back down to 60%. So avoiding that like 100% loading, even though it does produce like the highest strength output, the risk to reward isn't there, especially in a lifter that hasn't been lifting for like more, like literally a novice power lifter is like after 4 to 5 years of doing the basics, before you start going straight from like a really heavy back squat to a really heavy deadlift in one workout, for example, and maxing out volume.
Got you. Okay. So avoid those extremes. That's a really good piece of advice. So you said also like asserting, when you said that, was it like, I know what's best kind of thing? Or was it like, you don't want people to, like, what were you saying? What were you saying when you mentioned that?
If you know mathematically that somebody is breaking like the rules of progressive overload by jumping in and doing something heavier than you would prescribe on your own with them, but they insist on like one more plate. Or I have a lot of runners that insist on like cranking the mileage in 1 week while they're running by themselves outside of working out with me. And I'm like, we can't increase like by more than 10% for more than 3 weeks in a row, or you end up with an injury. So if you are a trainer that specifically knows the things that cause injuries, don't be afraid to assert yourself and say, don't do that. Like the risk is not worth the reward. And don't be like gun shy about pulling out like basically like putting a little bit of knowledge. Like it's one thing not to be like I'm a super smart guy. Look at this. Look at this undulating periodization style. I'm doing that with you. And just like to sound smart. It's another thing to be like, no, I would like to tell you not to do that because I think you're going to get injured. And I think as trainers, we kind of get caught up in the like, I don't want to sound like a smartass, like jargon doctor, and I'm afraid to say what I know. Like you kind of have to find a balance in that as a coach, and that takes a little while to be like, when am I just being assertive for no reason, and when should I really have said something and I didn't?
Okay.
Yeah, you unfortunately do learn that by doing it incorrectly in the beginning.
Right. Okay, I get that. Do you think that RPE is a valuable metric for intensity or how hard someone is physically working? Like those two things, looking at, asking them on a scale of 0 to 10, and also like looking at how they're performing the exercise. Do you think, those are pretty good? And if not, is there anything else that you would personally use to measure?
I used to always do like calculations from like NSCA's calculations. Like that's how I started doing things for like hypertrophy, strength, and peaking. And then as it's developed, I lean a lot more on RPE and perceived exertion. Or reps in reserve, I should say, are the two that I use the most commonly.
Can you break down reps in reserve?
Yeah, so the easiest two questions to ask somebody is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was that? So a 10 being the hardest thing you've ever done, a 1 being easy as could be. And that's how I use perceived exertion. And then reps in reserve, I ask people, how many more do you feel like you could have done at the end of that set? And generally, they're pretty darn close to being, so on a scale of 1 to 10, if someone tells me that was a 10, then they can do 0 more reps. If they say it was a 9, they can probably do 1 more rep. If they say it was an 8, they can probably do 2 more reps. If they say it was a 7, they can probably do 3. And is that kind of adding up? So if someone says 6 out of 10, or they tell me I could have done 4 more, either way, I gauge that as 60% intensity. Like,
got you.
So I'm using a scale out of 10.
Both.
Base 10s, and they're both the same question, but it's less weird to just be like, on a scale of 1 to 10 after every single rep. It's nice to bounce back and forth and say, how many more could you have done? And it's also nice to just be like, I saw you fail, so you were at a 9 or a 10. So those are the 3 that I use the most commonly. And that's just 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% intensity. And those are pretty much all your calculations.
Do you have clients that you work with improving like endurance, aerobic or anaerobic? And do you have them, do you have them set up with some kind of wearable or way to do heart rate?
I have people that have them on their own and track that stuff on their own. I'm a big fan of doing, like, in a personal training session. I do 2 things, is like you're sweating, your heart rate's up. So I use like more so like ventilatory threshold levels. So like V1 being like you can talk and you can sing, V2 being you can talk but can't sing, V3 being you can't talk or sing, and you need to go lay on the floor. So I use those 3 ventilatory thresholds with people, but I'm not usually doing like straight cardio in a session. I'm using that as like a light gauge to give people, like, usually it's a strength training circuit that slants towards high reps, light weights, and a lot more like plyometric stuff. So I get their heart rates up for like a piece of the workout. And then most of my people, I start them with a like little, like just a light jog or a light walk. And then I end with like a high intensity interval for 3 to 5 minutes. And so they're doing that like max intensity, basically like lowest time investment, highest results. And then the homework that I prescribe to people is about duration. So it's not about fast or slow. It's about, actually, I'd prefer you to do slow and I prefer you to go longer. So we're at the like high, like polarizing cardiovascular training. So really, really high intensity once or twice a week with me. And then really, really low intensity, preferably half hour a day if you can get there, or more for some people. And that's how I do cardiovascular fitness.
Okay, that's awesome.
Do a very little bit with me so we don't waste your time because you're here to strength train. And then if you want to do more cardio with me, we're also strength training because you're here to strength train. And then go home and do your cardio because I'm not going to watch you run on the treadmill.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I can't talk to you about your day forever. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is something to be said about being able to be more interactive with them, and just standing there on a treadmill is not the way to go when you want
Exactly.
a relationship.
Not an efficient way to use your time with me. But like, I'm not even close.
In the months, days, weeks leading up to opening up the business, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently to make it more efficient, to make things happen smoother? Do you feel like everything happened smoothly and there's not, you didn't have any kind of issues with it? Or talk to me a bit about that.
A lot of things did go smoothly. We did get a lot of really good advice out of the gate on like picking the right location and our like very first like little wave of marketing. I guess having a better grip and a better idea of like, we should have maybe done a better job outlining like the story of our brand a little bit better and using that like consistently across all of our marketing. Like in the beginning with marketing, I had someone describe it as like, it's like we were using a strategy that I would call like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like we were doing 10 things all at once and hoping that one of them stuck. And I mean, I don't know that we could have done it any other way, because we either would have had to like pay somebody who was very experienced in marketing, or we would have had to pay money to become more experienced in marketing, or, waited 6 more months to figure it out before we open. And then, so the hardest things were like a marketing strategy that was organized and not just like chaotic. And then the other thing was, I wish we would have really, really established like bookkeeping and accounting in our first, like before we had opened basically. So going back and trying to like bookkeep for all of your receipts after you've been open for 4 months, trying to find a good bookkeeper and an accountant and make sure that you're all on the same page at the end of the first year, getting your bookkeeper to clean up your books and send your info to your accountant. That is a real scramble in the first year. And everybody said that to me, but understanding the like nuances of that is difficult. But I guess I don't know how we would have known any of that other than learning on the fly. So in an ideal world, I would have like magically, like I had meetings with multiple people that I'm friends with that all opened a gym and did it on their own. And they like alluded to things like that. But I wish I would have had the wherewithal to ask somebody, how do you have your bookkeeping set up? How do you do it? Like, you use QuickBooks? How do you use QuickBooks? What does your accountant need? What are the classifications of a business? Understanding like business law a little bit better. Knowing who to ask the right questions was really hard in accounting. Was like, who tells me if I can write off lunch? Like that's a really, really small example.
Right.
But also like, if I want to save for retirement, what type of retirement saving account is best? And do I pay for it with the business, or do I pay for it personally? And do I like, there were very nuanced questions that we found out. It felt kind of late, but we did figure them all out.
Good.
But I think it would have cost thousands of dollars to have somebody else tell us all that stuff. So at the same time,
I see. So yeah, you didn't really get any help from a financial advisor or professional.
We had an accountant, and our accountant was like, all right, have your bookkeeper send me your stuff. And I was like, we don't have a bookkeeper. So things like that. Like, we met with a bookkeeper that explained to us verbally in an hour how to use QuickBooks, and then we never talked again. And I was just supposed to be doing it. It seemed easy when she walked me through it. It is easy now that we know how to do it. But in the beginning, you're like so much like, I just got to get a client in the door, man. You're not like, oh, also I need to make sure that I save that receipt and that my filing cabinet's organized just so I can find that if I get audited. Like, there just aren't things you're going to know or have the time to do in the beginning. So I don't know if that's necessarily, we could have done it better. But it was hard. I wish it was easier, but it wasn't. But
well, I'm waiting on that that how to start your own business portfolio that you're gonna put together. And,
how to start a training business.
You're gonna tell us all the secrets.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of it's just so niche. Because like, we are a personal training studio and a physical therapy, like we have to bill insurances. They were just just things that all the answers are out there, like in the social internet, but getting specifics to like, no, I'm a partnership LLC and I'm married to my partner who's 50% co-owner. Like, that's not written any, like you can find the rules on a website, but then the rules all change because the way, like, no, we're married, filed jointly as two partners. So there's different rules.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all just, it's like the mystical US tax code. Like it's all sort of made up, but you have to learn it. Like it's literally like fiction, but it applies to you.
Word. Yeah, the stuff that you never thought about in high school and
Exactly.
growing up, and the stuff that they didn't teach us either. So
yeah, but
awesome.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and there's still things we're gonna learn. Like if we hire
That's
a new
right.
employee, whole new bag of books we need to read through. Like
That's all a part of it, right?
Yeah.
The name of this show is Sets and Reps. You got to put in the reps to get the results. So if you want to see your business grow, you gotta do what it takes to get there. And I'm excited to see what Wellfound is going to look like. I still want to come down and check the place out.
You have to. You got to just come experience.
Come get a workout in.
Have you been to Burlington, Vermont, and just like had a weekend here yet?
So Vermont, I've been to, but I just know it's just beautiful up there, isn't it? Like that's
been to Chittenden County, like Burlington, Williston, that area.
I don't think specifically. I've either been through it. I don't know if I've stayed there longer than like a couple hours. No.
You have to come up and you just have to like experience. Like it's like people call it the western coast of Vermont because we have this giant lake that like wraps up the whole left side of the state. And there's just so much to do. Like there's this big beautiful lake. There's beaches like every like 5 miles you can get down to the lake. You can throw like we have paddle boards. You can throw them out in the water. There's like 30 miles of bike path up the sea. Like you would straight up have a blast. Like everyone come to Burlington, come hang out.
Here we go.
We're outside.
You heard it here. You heard it there, You heard it there, folks. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I like that.
Come here, like don't just come to Vermont. Come to Burlington, Vermont, or the area. North or south of Burlington's all beautiful, but on the lake, on Lake Champlain in Vermont.
Well, you're passionate about the place that you opened up a business in, so that's good. That's important.
Everyone looked at us sideways when I was like leaving Vermont to open leaving New Hampshire, nice tax lenient New Hampshire, to come to tax heavy Vermont to open the business. People kind of looked at us sideways, but it's worth the extra you pay. It's a good state.
Right on. So thanks again for coming on the show, Brandon. Really enjoyable conversation I had here. My got a lot of notes here, and I think you're gonna help provide myself and my audience with a lot of the ins and outs, not only about what it takes to keep a business like this up and running, and the fact that your company is so niche and so specific. I think that's amazing. And also some of the ins and outs of like program design and how to actually, train people is a cool thing that we touched on today as well. So thanks again. Can you tell the people where they can find your business and, where you're located again, and where they can find out more information?
Yeah. So our website is probably the first spot. It's wellfoundvt.com. And then that's got all of our like email contact info. If you ever just email me directly is easiest, Brandon at wellfoundvt.com. If you have like training questions, always happy to nerd out with other fitness nerds. It's fun for me. Or just stop by. We're in Williston. We're like 4 minutes off the interstate in Williston, Vermont. Just type in Wellfound in your GPS and
you'll see a picture of Brandon holding up a sandwich board just in front of
that says workout.
In a deep squat too.
Yeah,
overhead.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks so much for that. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.